This is
Sure.
a question submitted to us from Jared the TIE Pilot, who again is quite frankly the reason I'm here. Other than the company I enjoy with you, Alden, as a friend and co-broadcaster, but it's been so much fun to talk about what I call these general questions that I just, for someone who dives so deep into themes, I sometimes struggle to find just a fun, simple question. So,
I categorize them as thought
thought
starters.
starters.
They're very good thought starters.
There you go. We got good corporate speak going today, Alden. We're going to ideate. We got thought starters. We're going to circle back. We're going to do all the things.
We need to implement some radical candor.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. So there we go. Our next question we're diving into is related to hands of the king or queen, hands of the ruler, however you want to describe it. Jared had this question of what is our favorite hand of the king or queen portrayed on screen in a Game of Thrones show. So this is not necessarily book related. Yeah, kind of one and the same at times. But in terms of performances as an actor, or as a actual character in story, what are some of your favorites, Alden?
All right, well, the first thing to do is to take out your list of hands and to immediately scratch off Kevin Lannister. You do not make it.
Yes.
And sorry, Uncle Kevin. And then, you know what, Kyburn, I like you a lot.
Ooh.
Shout out Anti-Lesser, but you're a creep. You're a creep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Kyburn's not in. So, but there's stiff competition in the upper ranks.
Yes.
That those top three guys, I think you can go either way. I don't know where you're going to go. We didn't discuss this.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the only person on this list to be the hand of a king and a queen, and that is Tyrion Lannister. Possibly one of my favorite fictional characters of all time. In fact, I would say he is. A character that comes up whenever I take a in-depth personality type quiz and they give you fictional characters of who you are. Tyrion is always in the top picks that I get. I relate to him a lot. I think that he's brilliant. I think he's an out-of-the-box thinker. I think his strength that maybe doesn't put him above some other hands, but it makes him unique in other hands. And I think other hands could have afforded to have this, is that unlike his father, Otto, some other people that we're going to discuss, he understands people in a really, really, really specific and intimate way. Sometimes a little too intimate.
Yeah.
And that has bitten him in the ass a couple times. Yeah. But Tyrion, by the nature and by the sheer virtue of his differences, his physical differences, and his attitudinal differences of him sort of like wanting to enjoy life and enjoy, the occasional casual bang. He has a very like man of the people vibe about him that you clock immediately right from the beginning. Before he even ascends to hand, he goes to the wall not for politicking, but just because he wants to see it. Yeah. And because he respects the intrepid men of the Night's Watch. Even though he like makes fun of their goals, he acknowledges their place. And like he's done the reading. He understands the world. He doesn't reveal this side of himself too much, but Tyrion also serves in a lot of ways the realm that he grew up sort of thinking about and dreaming about, and talks about how like when he was a little kid, all he wanted was a dragon. And like, it could be a little dragon just like me, which is one of Peter Dinklage's best scenes, by the way, guys. That scene is so moving. It's so sweet. And he, I think, functions that way a lot, where he finally gets to like put that into action in the very last scene, where it's like that very last scene is him with a council that like, yeah, they're kind of a goofy bunch, Bronn's there, but like, it is finally like wow, like we have a king that is like actually like good-hearted now, however you feel about Bran, I get it. But like it is, he's got Brienne there, he's got Davos there, he's got Samwell there. Like I think Tyrion is going to do so well in a world of peacetime because he would have fit that anyway. And through necessity, he was able to navigate stuff like Blackwater very well for not being a combatant at all. But I think he's got the mind for it. He's a real believer, I guess is what I'm saying. And maybe with Dany, it didn't work out, but he wasn't wrong for believing. That's
a great point, especially talking about the peacetime and trying to maintain the peace. And and that's part of the duties of the hand. I don't disagree with your answer at all. I think he might be the best. He might be the one truly born to it, at least as portrayed on the show, and how they really, that stuff with Varys, them talking and conspire, not conspiring, but like trying to figure out how they're going to do all this, and then not, what another game for another time, as I paraphrase that wonderful scene. And it's also this question's about how you measure them too. We're talking also about performance, perhaps if you want to dive into the performances on screen, but also just as hands. What is their goal? What did they do? What kind of ruler did they serve under? So a lot of people in chat will go over some of the chat answers, but yeah, Ned Stark is one of my favorites. But the tragedy of Ned is sometimes he's not perfect at his job because he's too good at being Ned, and Robert was too hard to control. Even especially at that point, maybe if he had come on board earlier. I think my answer, I'm tempted, Alden, to make my answer Sir Otto Hightower. Tempted.
Which is what I thought you were going to say.
Okay.
That's what I thought.
Okay. So maybe that's my answer because it's my favorite one to watch right now. But I also, he's too good, and he's too good for himself. It's all about propping himself up while also being good. There's a duality to him that I like. And of course, it's amazing to watch. But Jared's answer, a friend who asked the question, his answer is Lionel Strong, whose hairline I'm representing today. And I think he represents someone who was good, served for 9 years, but on paper, he's a great answer for me. But I think Otto, he's truly like Tywin. Tywin's, I mean, we're talking about measuring it against who's also the ruler they're serving under. I think my favorite hand of the king scene is Tywin and Joffrey with the "You are being counseled at this very moment." That might be the best hand scene.
Oh, that one. I thought you were going to say the king is tired, which are both great. They're both great. Yeah.
That's a good answer.
Because the other one, but the one your scene choice though is the one where he says like, "We could arrange to have you carried." Like it's fantastic.
Yeah, but for me, Otto, and then just Otto's fall, which I think has a lot to do with some of his machinations, is a tragedy, but also deserved by some of the stuff he was doing. But I also think he's just trying to play the game as well. So I think my favorite to watch right now, which is my favorite on screen, is Otto. Love all the other ones. And Eric mentioned in chat too. We'll go over some of the answers, like I said, but Davos for Stannis, because I'm such a Stannis guy. He had too good of a heart for it. But I love watching him try to handle the pressure.
For sure. I think that I would like to know very early to bring Corlys Velaryon into this, but he did become Hand of the Queen.
That's right.
Just now at the end of season 2. So we'll see how he does. I know some people already know how he does. We're not going to spoil it here in the chat, y'all, but excited to see where that goes. I think, Tywin and Otto, there's similarities. There's stuff that you get about both of them. They both sort of ruled not just their stately sort of duties with an iron fist, but they also rule their families with an iron fist.
Yeah.
They manipulate their own kids. There's a lot of parallels there, but you get the idea that Tywin, Otto doesn't respect Alicent, but he's not embarrassed by Alicent the way that Tywin is about Tyrion.
Yeah.
And that difference, and they have other children, but just like the child that they spend the most time with on screen, like that difference is that Otto can stay in work mode and just put his hand on Alicent's forehead and keep her at arm's distance and occasionally berate her, whereas Tywin can stay in work mode 98% of the time, but that 2% where he lets Tyrion get to him is what kills him.
Literally, yeah.
Had he not started sleeping with Shay purely out of spite, it seems like, purely out of being a hypocrite, because he was the one that said that he didn't want her at court, and then he starts sleeping with her just to hurt Tyrion. Maybe we don't have that story. Maybe in his mind he justified it as the hand needs a companion too. Maybe he'd have his own reasons if he got caught, but it's that disrespect that killed him. It's not that he messed up on the job. And it's that I think is a fascinating thing about him. And then on the flip side, Otto, to speak about our love of that character, he's a great pick, and I was pretty sure you were going to choose him because you and I agree that one of the best scenes in the entirety of HBO Westeros is the when he reams out his grandson and is like, "Is that what you think?" Like he basically reveals the green plot to him, like, and that's when that's when all of the I don't know if you're aware, but there are internet shippers. That are big into the idea of Vizado, that are like Viserys and Otto had more than just a friendship, and it's that scene is their big piece of evidence where they're like the way that he longs for him, and he's like, "Do you never think of your father, of his dignity, his forbearance?" Like it all crumbled, I think, right there for him, where he was like, "Oh, we didn't need to do this," but he'll commit, because he's a bastard.
On Lionel Strong, what I do like, he's Lionel Strong's a lunch pail guy for me. This is someone who clocks into work. One of his strengths, and Jared says it in chat, he served with glee and didn't try to add to his own power or his family's power, which is what you would want. And I think Tyrion showed that. I think Ned showed that. Anything he did, I think, was truly to protect the realm, not protect the Starks. In fact, I would have liked him to have protected the Starks a little bit more. And Lionel's in that too, but the same thing happens to him. He and Harwin lose their life, not protecting their own family. But that right there, what Jared's saying, does make him on paper a great choice.
I agree. Yeah, he's a union man. He's just a guy.
Dude.
He's just doing his thing. Like Maddie brings up a good point here, where and Maddie points out the House of the Dragon was his entry point into the show. But he's talking about Ned here. He goes, still a surface level fan, but Ned seemed like he was unwilling to compromise on what he knew was right. Maybe wasn't the best for the job, but he wanted to do his friend proud. And I think that there's something to that.
Yeah.
And that's Ned's. It's much bigger than this. There's also the father stuff. There's also the honor. They're not willing to go after Daenerys, all these things. But fundamentally, when you boil it all down, is that like Ned is an incredible soldier.
Yeah.
He already was a legendary soldier. The best fighter? No. Top 20 best fighters? Still probably not.
I don't know.
But like, but 20, yeah. 10, no. But 20, you could probably get in. But he was the Warden of the North, super respected, dependable, much like many of his family line, would never break a vow. Like, he's the guy. Robert's Rebellion started. Yeah, I'm there. What are we doing? Let's go. Like, and yes, he had a personal stake in it too. But like, when the war was over, that was it for him. He went back and he did what was expected of him. Being asked to machinate and betray and scheme out of wartime is not what a soldier does. And you get that great breakdown, which is so awesome and just like beautifully acted by everyone, but especially Mark Addy, when he's like, "Speak sense to this honorable fool." Like, it's fantastic because Robert has forgotten what they were.
Yeah.
He's forgotten being soldiers. He's forgotten being heroes. He's so many bottles of wine, so many prostitutes, so many just vicious moments. He doesn't remember that anymore.
He doesn't. No, I look, Ned Stark remains one of my favorite characters. He really is. The impact is felt. And it's felt all the way up to season 7 and 8, and we got some of those great scenes of Arya and Sansa talking about it. And I always like having the conversation, and I think Maddie's kind of touching on it here, is that maybe he wasn't the best for the job. It's because of who he was that made him not good for the job, which is, again, probably why Robert wanted him there and everything. But I love going back and revisiting season 1 often and just thinking about it. But wanting Ned to actually truly play the game as opposed to just trying to be a wrecking ball getting through it, which might be the right path morally. That led him to where he was.
Yeah, like when Robert's on the hunt and Ned is sitting up there and he just like wrecks shop and is like, "I stripped the false knight Gregor Clegane of all lands and holdings," and everyone's like, "Whoa, God, dude, you can't just throw around laws. You can't just do things and hold people accountable. That's crazy." It is sad. It's sad because it's much like with watching Revenge of the Sith, where you're like, maybe this time it'll be different. Like you watch Game of Thrones season 1, and you're like, maybe this time you don't go. And then you keep bargaining the entire season.
But mine is that, but also later on where he's packing up to leave, and that damn Bayless shows up. That's one of the big, fun what ifs for me. If Ned just says, "Kick rocks, pal," I'm out of here.
When he says that, when he finds out that Renly's gone, that is like the final alarm. Yeah. It's like, get out. And but there's an interesting thing that nobody mentions that I want to end the hand conversation on. There's somebody that was never hand that really wanted the job right before Ned got it. And that's the Kingslayer, Jaime Lannister. Right. And it's like, Robert would never going to pick him because he's a Kingsguard intentionally as an insult. It's a double insult to both Tywin and him. But imagine a world where he does get that job after Jon Arryn. It's like, would it be great to have Jaime in that role? Probably not. But like, we also know the truth of the man that the characters don't know. Mm-hmm. And it's like the Jaime that became the Kingslayer to save lives. Maybe he wouldn't have been good at this because like he's not politically minded, but like a hand Jaime with both literal hands. So you got the best warrior on the planet as hand, but then like he would probably tag in little brother for all of his important calls. Tyrion would be there to give advice.
Here's a Zoom link for you.
All the meetings. Yeah. Tyrion is going to be there. He's the hand of the hand. And then it actually probably would have worked decently well for that period. He wouldn't have shown up in Winterfell to push little Bran. Like, it's one of those things where it's like that initial disrespect, even though they're the heels of that season, it's like they also had justifiable pain, and that's why they're so compelling.
Yep. That's a great big what if. What are final thoughts here? What are some of your prospects that never got it? You bring up Jaime as a great answer. Who, even if whether they wanted it or not, that maybe they would have made a good hand.
Hand of the Queen, Missandei of Naath. I think
that's a great answer.
She was basically already in an advisory capacity by the time she passes away, which is still very heartbreaking. But like Endgame Missandei, season 8 Missandei is like right there with her anyway. But like her arc from being a translator to being her best friend and one of her closest confidants is really powerful. And I think that she, like, Grey Worm again is a soldier, so I wouldn't choose Grey Worm. I certainly would not choose Dario. I don't need a guy thinking with his other sword, But Missandei, she had the juice. She was a thinker, and she also understood people.
Yes, that's a great answer. Samwell Tarly was a good one for me. Podrick is an interesting choice for Matty Gunner there. I was gonna maybe say in another timeline Jorah Mormont, because my boy Jorah, I don't think he would have been a good hand of the king. Too much for him. He's got too big of a heart. Jorah Mormont in another timeline, though. I think he's good at playing the game, to better or worse. What he was throwing up, up there at Craster's and negotiating, but also the secrets he might have known that would have been good. Yara Greyjoy comes to mind, or Ash, if you want to go books. But again, she might be too bloodthirsty.
Maybe
I don't know. So here's where I go. It unfortunately, show version can't happen. She died, but Lyanna Mormont. I would have liked to seen her rise to hand of the king.
Yeah. What a wonderful character. Yeah. She'll come up in a later question. Very excited to talk about her some more. Obviously, Bella Ramsey on a great time of her career right now. Their career right now. I apologize. And I think that performance, those key scenes, calling out all the Northern Lords on their hypocrisy, amazing. Yep. I would also shout out an early season MVP. I think he's only in the first 2 seasons. I think that's when the Theon betrayal happens, right? Maester Luwin.
Luwin,
is an early just ride or die G. One of my favorite scenes is Robb and Theon and Luwin together, and it's when Robb says, "Call the Banners," and he's like, "All of them?" And he's like, "They've all sworn to protect my father," and he's like, "I." And it's like, this guy, because he helped raise that kid.
I love that.
He helped raise him. And there's a moment of like, you could see it sucks. This is horrifying. that the boy's about to go to war. But there's also a pride of like, I'm so proud that we did this kid right.
Yeah.
Like, look at him. He's doing what should be done. And yeah, he was ride or die to the end. Roderick Cassell as well. Also ride or die to there.
Yeah, and then yeah, there's some. Well, we'll get into we'll do bad answers another time. Jared, I might just rewatch this scene today over lunch. You refused the call. It's just one of my favorite. Leanna just going down the line. F you, definitely F you. Great stuff. There you go. That's our Hand of the King and Queen conversation. Thank you, Jared, for that one there.